The Fall from Grace. The sun-dappled streets of the quaint Jamaican village had once been the backdrop for Angela's lavish life, but now they seemed to mock her with their vibrant colors and carefree energy. She had been the envy of her neighbors, her stately home a testament to the wealth and status she had so carefully curated. But that was all in the past now, a distant dream that had crumbled to dust. Angela stood at the window, her elegant frame draped in a simple cotton dress, a far cry from the designer gowns that had once adorned her. Her eyes, once bright with ambition, now held a haunted, defeated look. The lush gardens and shimmering pool that had once been the pride of her domain now lay neglected, a silent rebuke of her fall from grace. A sudden noise from the kitchen startled her, and she turned to see her husband, Jaden, hurrying about, his weathered hands moving with an unfamiliar sense of purpose. Once the owner of a thriving import business, Jaden now toiled as a secretary, his broad shoulders stooped under the weight of their newfound circumstances. "Angela, I'm just about to leave for work," Jaden said, his voice soft but tinged with a hint of worry. "The children will be home from school soon. Is there anything you need?" Angela's lips tightened into a thin line, and she averted her gaze, unable to meet his kind eyes. "No, Jaden. I'll be fine." Jaden hesitated as if he wanted to say more, but instead he gave a small nod and headed for the door. The sound of it closing behind him echoed through the once grand house, a stark reminder of the changes that had upended their lives. Angela's fingers traced the intricate designs of the window frame, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. How had it all gone so terribly wrong? Just months ago, they had been the envy of the village, their wealth and influence the stuff of local legend. But then Jaden's business had collapsed, and the comfortable life they had known crumbled around them. She remembered the day Jaden had come home, his face etched with despair, to deliver the news that his company had gone under. Angela had been devastated, but her reaction had been one of pure panic. The loss of their wealth, their status, their power, it was more than she could bear. In her darkest moments, Angela had found herself drawn to the whispers of old Maze, the village's notorious voodoo priest. The stories of his mystical powers had once been nothing more than idle gossip, but now they held a desperate allure. Perhaps, she had reasoned, there was a way to reclaim what they had lost, to restore the life she had grown so accustomed to. A soft patter of footsteps drew Angela's attention, and she turned to see her daughter, Maya, entering the room. The girl's curly hair was disheveled, and her bright eyes carried a hint of worry. "Mama, are you all right?" she asked, her voice tentative. Angela forced a smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, my dear, I'm fine. How was your day at school?" Maya hesitated, sensing the tension in the air. "It was fine, Mama. Liam is in his room as usual. He didn't want to come out and play with me." Angela's heart constricted at the mention of her son. Liam, once a vibrant and outgoing child, had become withdrawn and sullen in the wake of their financial ruin. She knew she should make more of an effort to engage with him, to reassure him that everything would be all right, but the weight of her own despair was a burden she could scarcely carry. "I see," Angela murmured, her gaze drifting back to the window. "Well, you should go check on your brother. Make sure he's doing his homework." Maya nodded, her expression troubled, and turned to leave. As she reached the doorway, she paused and looked back at her mother. "Mama, I know things are hard right now, but we'll get through this. Together." Angela felt a pang of guilt at her daughter's words, and she opened her mouth to respond, but Maya had already slipped out of the room. Alone once more, Angela's fingers clenched around the window frame, her knuckles turning white. Together. The word seemed to mock her, a cruel reminder of the family she was so perilously close to losing. She had been so consumed by her desire to restore their former wealth and status that she had begun to neglect the very people who mattered most. A soft knock at the door startled her, and she turned to see Jaden standing in the entryway, his expression etched with concern. "Angela, I forgot my lunch. I'll be late if I don't head back out." Angela nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Of course, Jaden. I'm sorry. I should have." Jaden held up a hand, silencing her. "Don't worry about it. I know you've got a lot on your mind these days." He offered her a gentle smile, his kind eyes reflecting the love he still held for her, despite their changed circumstances. As Jaden hurried back out the door, Angela felt a pang of remorse. Her family had always been her foundation, the source of her greatest joy and pride. But now, in her desperate quest to reclaim what they had lost, she was in danger of losing them altogether. The sound of children's laughter drifted in from the street, a haunting reminder of the carefree days that now seemed so far away. Angela turned back to the window, her gaze hardening with determination. She would not let her family slip through her fingers. Whatever it took, she would find a way to restore their wealth and their standing in the village, even if it meant making a deal with the devil himself. The monkey's paw. The oppressive heat of the Jamaican afternoon hung like a thick veil over the village, but Angela scarcely noticed as she hurried down the winding path towards Old Mace's modest dwelling. Her heart raced with a mixture of desperation and trepidation, for the old voodoo priest was known to exact a heavy price for his mystical services. As she neared the dilapidated shack, the air grew thick with the pungent scent of exotic herbs and spices. Angela paused at the door, her slender fingers trembling as she raised her hand to knock. Before she could follow through, the door swung open, revealing the wizened form of Old Mace. "I've been expecting you, Angela," the old man said, his voice a low, gravelly rasp. His dark eyes glinted with a knowing gleam as he ushered her inside, the floorboards creaking beneath their feet. The interior of the shack was a labyrinth of shelves and jars, each containing an array of curious objects, dried roots, animal bones, and strange trinkets that seemed to exude an unsettling aura. Angela felt a shiver run down her spine as she took in the space, her gaze drawn to the large ornate mirror that dominated the far wall. "You've come to me for help, have you not?" Old Maze asked, his crooked smile revealing a mouthful of yellowed teeth. Angela swallowed hard, her throat suddenly dry. "Yes, Old Mace," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "My family, we've fallen on hard times. I need a way to restore our wealth and status in the village." The old man nodded slowly, his gnarled fingers stroking his chin in contemplation. "Ah, yes, the Jacksons fall from grace. I've heard the whispers." He paused, his eyes narrowing as he studied Angela's face. "And what would you be willing to give in exchange for my assistance?" Angela felt a familiar surge of panic rise within her. She had known that Old Maze would demand a hefty price, but the thought of what he might ask for in return made her stomach twist with dread. Still, the desperation to reclaim her former life was a powerful motivator. I don't know," she stammered, her eyes darting around the room as if the answers might be hidden among the strange artifacts. "What do you require?" Old Mace let out a low, rumbling chuckle. "My dear, the price is always the same, a life for a life." He paused, his gaze piercing hers. "Are you willing to make that sacrifice?" Angela felt the blood drain from her face. "A life? You can't mean—" Her voice trailed off, the words catching in her throat. "I do not make the rules, child," Old Mace said, his tone taking on a hint of impatience. "The spirits demand a price, and they will not be denied. If you wish to have your wealth and status restored, you must be willing to give something in return." Angela's mind raced, her thoughts a whirlwind of fear and indecision. Could she truly be expected to sacrifice a life, even if it meant saving her family from ruin? The idea was abhorrent, and yet the thought of returning to the life she had once known was a temptation she found difficult to resist. I don't know," she finally managed, her voice trembling. "Can't there be another way?" Old Mace's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, Angela thought she saw a flicker of disappointment in his expression. "Very well," he said, his tone clipped. "If you are not willing to make the sacrifice, then I cannot help you." Angela felt a surge of panic. "Wait!" she exclaimed, reaching out to grasp the old man's sleeve. "Please, there must be something else I can do. Anything." Old Maze regarded her with an impassive stare, and for several long moments the only sound in the room was the faint rustling of the curtains. Finally he spoke, his words measured and deliberate. "There is another way," he said, his lips curving into a sinister smile. "But the price is still high, and the consequences may be dire." Angela felt a glimmer of hope, but it was tinged with a sense of foreboding. "Tell me," she breathed, her fingers tightening around the old man's sleeve. Old Mace pulled away, his gaze sweeping the room as if he were considering his words carefully. "There is a special monkey," he began, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. A monkey with the power to grant wealth beyond your wildest dreams. Angela felt her heart skip a beat. A monkey? She repeated, her brow furrowing in confusion. Ah, but this is no ordinary monkey, Old Mace continued, his eyes gleaming with a hint of excitement. This is a creature of great power, a conduit to the spirits themselves. If you can tame it and keep it appeased, it will shower you with riches beyond your wildest dreams. Angela felt a surge of excitement, her earlier trepidation momentarily forgotten. And what is the price for this? Monkey, she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Old Mace's smile widened, revealing his yellowed teeth once more. The price is your devotion, child, he said, his gaze boring into hers. The monkey demands constant attention and appeasement. It will grant you wealth, but it will also consume your very soul if you are not careful. Angela hesitated, the weight of his words sinking in. Consume my soul? She murmured, her brow furrowing in concern. Indeed, Old Mace replied, nodding solemnly. The monkey is a powerful, capricious creature. It will give you everything you desire, but it will also take everything you have in return. Your family, your sanity, your very humanity, all will be at its mercy. Angela felt a chill run down her spine, but the allure of wealth and status was a powerful temptation. She thought of her children, of Jaden's worried expression, and the memories of their former affluence. Surely the risk was worth it, if it meant restoring her family to their rightful place. I'll do it, she said, her voice steady despite the trepidation that gnawed at her. I'll take the monkey. Old Mace's eyes widened, and a twisted grin spread across his weathered face. Then so be it, he said, his voice tinged with an almost gleeful malice. The spirits have accepted your bargain. With a swift motion, the old man reached behind a shelf and produced a small, intricately carved wooden box. He placed it in Angela's trembling hands, his gaze never leaving her face. Take care, child, he whispered, his voice laced with a faint note of warning. The monkey's paw is a heavy burden to bear. Angela nodded, her fingers tightening around the box as she turned to leave, her heart pounding in her chest. As she stepped out into the oppressive heat, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just made a deal with the devil himself. The price of greed. The opulent living room of Angela's newly reclaimed mansion was a jarring contrast to the humble surroundings of Old Mace's shack. Sprawling across the plush leather sofa, Angela couldn't help but marvel at the ease with which her fortunes had been restored. The wooden box containing the mysterious monkey now rested on the ornate coffee table, a constant reminder of the pact she had made. It had been mere days since her fateful encounter with the Voodoo priest, yet Angela's life had been transformed in ways she could scarcely comprehend. The moment she had opened the box and the small, agile creature had emerged, her world had been turned upside down. The monkey, with its intelligent eyes and curious movements, had immediately begun showering her with wealth beyond her wildest dreams. Angela's fingers traced the intricate carvings on the box, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. Gone were the days of financial struggle and humiliation. The family's lavish lifestyle had been swiftly reinstated, and the envy of her neighbors had been rekindled. She reveled in the admiring glances and whispered gossip that followed her through the village, her elegant attire and opulent home a testament to her reclaimed status. Yet, even as she basked in the glow of her newfound prosperity, a nagging sense of unease had begun to creep into her mind. The monkey's demands for constant attention and appeasement were growing increasingly erratic, and Angela found herself spending more and more time ensuring its contentment. The once vibrant creature had become restless and unpredictable, its appetite for offerings seemingly insatiable. Angela's brow furrowed as she contemplated the old man's warnings. The price of the monkey's paw was her devotion, and she had willingly paid it. But at what cost? The images of her children, once so full of life and joy, now haunted her thoughts. Maya's bright eyes had dimmed, and Liam's once boisterous spirit had been replaced by a sullen withdrawal. As if summoned by her troubled thoughts, Maya suddenly appeared in the doorway, her curly hair in disarray and her expression etched with concern. "Mama, have you seen Liam? He won't come out of his room, and he hasn't touched his dinner." Angela felt a pang of guilt as she met her daughter's gaze. "I'm afraid I haven't, my dear. I've been preoccupied." She gestured vaguely towards the ornate box, the monkeys chittering a constant background noise. Maya's eyes widened as she noticed the box, and she took a tentative step forward. Mama, what is that? What's happening to our family? Angela's heart clenched at the fear and confusion in her daughter's voice. She opened her mouth to speak, to try and reassure Maya, but the words caught in her throat. How could she possibly explain the bargain she had made, the price she had paid for their restored wealth? Before she could respond, the sound of the front door opening drew their attention, and Jaden's weathered form appeared in the entryway. His brow was furrowed, and his kind eyes were filled with a mixture of concern and disappointment as he took in the lavish surroundings. Angela, he said, his voice low and measured, I need to speak with you, in private. Angela felt a shiver of trepidation run down her spine, but she nodded, gesturing for Maya to leave the room. As her daughter reluctantly retreated, she turned her attention to her husband, bracing herself for the confrontation she knew was coming. Jaden's gaze swept the room, taking in the opulent furnishings and the glittering chandelier that hung overhead. This is all very impressive, he began, his tone betraying a hint of unease. But I can't help but wonder how we managed to afford such luxuries so quickly. Angela averted her gaze, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her dress. Jaden, she began, her voice trailing off as she struggled to find the right words. Angela, what have you done? Jaden pressed, his voice rising with a hint of desperation. I know things have been difficult, but this is beyond what I ever imagined. The villagers are whispering, and I can't help but feel that there's something more to this than you're telling me. Angela felt a surge of defensiveness rise within her, but she quickly suppressed it, knowing that Jaden deserved the truth. I made a deal, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. With old Mace, he promised to restore our wealth, and I accepted. Jaden's eyes widened, and he took a step back, his expression a mixture of shock and horror. A deal with old Mace? Angela, do you have any idea what you've done? Angela felt a lump form in her throat as she watched the man she loved grapple with the weight of her confession. I know, Jaden, she said, her voice trembling. I know it was a risk, but I couldn't bear the thought of losing everything. I had to do something. Jaden ran a hand through his graying hair, his brow furrowed in a pained expression. At what cost, Angela? He asked, his voice laced with anguish. What have you sacrificed for this false prosperity? Angela felt the tears welling in her eyes, and she reached out to him, her fingers grasping his sleeve. Jaden, please, you have to understand. I was so afraid of losing everything. Our home, our status, our family. She paused, her breath catching in her throat. I thought I was doing the right thing, but now I'm not so sure. Jaden's expression softened, and he pulled her into a tight embrace, his weathered hands gently stroking her hair. Oh, Angela, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. What have you done? The sound of a vase shattering in the kitchen broke the tender moment, and they both turned to see the monkey darting across the room, its small hands clutching a gleaming ornament. Angela's eyes widened with alarm, and she rushed to appease the creature, her fingers fumbling with the offering she had prepared. As she tended to the monkey's insatiable demands, Jaden watched with a heavy heart, his gaze filled with a mixture of sorrow and disappointment. The family he had once known, the life they had built together, seemed to slip further and further away with each passing moment. Outside, the bustling sounds of the village carried on, unaware of the turmoil that had taken hold within the walls of the Jackson household. The once envied family had become a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the perils of greed and the consequences of making a deal with the devil. The unraveling. The golden rays of the afternoon sun streamed through the grand windows of the Jackson mansion, casting a warm glow over the lavish interior. But the once vibrant space now felt heavy with a sense of unease, a palpable tension that hung in the air like an ominous cloud. Maya Jackson sat on the plush sofa, her fingers fidgeting with the delicate embroidery of the cushion. Her bright eyes, once so full of life, now held a haunted, troubled expression as she watched her mother, Angela, fussing over the small wooden box that had become the central focus of their household. The mysterious monkey, with its intelligent eyes and nimble movements, had become an inextricable part of their lives in the weeks since Angela's fateful encounter with the voodoo priest, Old Mace. Maya had witnessed, with growing alarm, the way her mother's obsession with the creature had consumed her, driving a wedge between the once close-knit family. As Angela tended to the monkey's endless demands, Maya couldn't help but think back to the mango she had brought home from school, a simple fruit that had somehow become the catalyst for the unraveling of their family's fragile existence. The memory of the monkey's ravenous appetite, its small hands snatching the mango from her grasp, sent a shiver down Maya's spine. In that moment, she had seen a glimpse of the true nature of the creature, a primal, unforgiving force that cared nothing for the well-being of the humans it had ensnared. Gathering her courage, Maya rose from the sofa and approached her mother, her steps tentative. "Mama," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm worried about Liam. He hasn't come out of his room all day, and he won't even touch his food." Angela's attention remained fixed on the wooden box, her fingers caressing the intricate carvings as if they were the most precious of treasures. "I'm sure he's fine, my dear," she murmured, her tone distracted. "He's just going through a phase, that's all." Maya frowned, her brow furrowing with concern. "But Mama, you haven't even checked on him. He needs us, and you've been so—" She hesitated, unsure of how to voice her growing unease. Finally, Angela's gaze shifted and she turned to face her daughter, her eyes narrowing with a hint of irritation. "I've been busy, Maya," she snapped, her voice sharp. "You know how important it is to keep the monkey content. Our family's prosperity depends on it." Maya recoiled at her mother's harsh tone, the words stinging like a slap. "But Mama, what about our family?" she pleaded, her voice trembling. "Don't we matter more than some monkey?" For a moment, a flicker of doubt crossed Angela's features, and Maya dared to hope that her words had reached her. But then the older woman's expression hardened and she shook her head, her lips tightening into a thin line. "You wouldn't understand, Maya," she said, her voice laced with a note of finality. "This is about so much more than just our family. It's about reclaiming what's rightfully ours, our wealth, our status, our power. And the monkey is the key to making that happen." Maya felt her heart sink, and she took a step back, her eyes brimming with tears. "But at what cost, Mama?" she whispered, the anguish in her voice palpable. "What are we losing in the process?" Before Angela could respond, the sound of shattering glass drew their attention to the corner of the room where the monkey had toppled a vase, its shards scattered across the polished floor. With a frantic cry, Angela rushed to appease the creature, her fingers fumbling with the offering she had prepared. Maya watched, her heart heavy, as her mother tended to the monkey's demands, her own needs and those of her family pushed aside in the face of the creature's insatiable appetite. It was a heartbreaking sight, and Maya felt a surge of desperation rise within her. Turning on her heel, she fled the room, her mind racing as she sought a way to break the curse that had ensnared her family. She knew she couldn't confront the monkey alone. It was a force of primal, unforgiving power that demanded constant attention and appeasement. But perhaps, with the help of someone wiser, she could find a way to break the spell. Her feet carried her through the winding streets of the village, the familiar sights and sounds doing little to ease the weight she felt in her heart. As she neared the modest dwelling of the village's wise healer, a glimmer of hope began to flicker within her. The old woman, with her silver hair and warm, wrinkled smile, had always been a source of comfort and guidance for the village's residents. Maya had heard the whispers of her mystical knowledge, her ability to commune with the spirits and unravel the most perplexing of curses. Steeling her resolve, Maya approached the healer's door and knocked, her heart pounding in her chest. When the door swung open, revealing the kindly old woman, Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Child, what brings you here?" the healer asked, her voice soft and soothing. Maya took a deep breath, her words tumbling out in a rush. "Please, you have to help me," she pleaded, her eyes filled with desperation. "My family, we're in terrible trouble and I don't know what to do." The healer's brow furrowed with concern, and she ushered Maya inside, guiding her to a worn but comfortable chair. "Tell me what's happened, my dear," she said, her weathered hands gently clasping Maya's. As Maya recounted the harrowing tale of her mother's pact with Old Mace and the mysterious monkey that had brought both wealth and ruin to their family, the healer listened intently, her expression growing graver with each passing moment. When Maya had finished, the old woman sat back, her gaze thoughtful. "This is a powerful and dangerous curse, child," she murmured, her voice tinged with a hint of awe. "The monkey you speak of is no ordinary creature. It is a conduit to the very spirits themselves, a vessel for both great fortune and utter devastation." Maya felt a chill run down her spine, and she leaned forward, her eyes wide with fear. "Please, you have to help me," she implored. "I can't let my family be destroyed by this thing." The healer reached out and grasped Maya's hands, her grip firm and reassuring. "There is a way to break the curse, but the price will be high," she said, her voice grave. "The monkey demands a sacrifice, a life for a life, in order to be appeased." Maya felt her heart skip a beat, and she shook her head vehemently. "No, I won't let anyone else suffer because of this," she cried, the tears streaming down her cheeks. "There has to be another way." The healer's expression softened, and she gave Maya's hands a gentle squeeze. "There is one other option, child," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it will require a sacrifice of a different kind, one that will test the very limits of your courage and your love for your family." Maya's breath caught in her throat, and she stared at the healer, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. "Tell me," she whispered, steeling herself for what was to come. The healer's gaze held Maya's, her eyes shining with a spark of wisdom and understanding. "You must confront the monkey, child," she said, her voice solemn, "and you must make the ultimate sacrifice to break its hold over your family." Maya felt a chill run down her spine, but the determination in her heart burned brighter than the fear. "I'll do it," she said, her voice unwavering. "Whatever it takes, I'll save my family." The healer nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Then go, child," she said, her voice filled with a mixture of pride and sorrow, "and may the spirits guide you on your journey." Maya rose from her seat, her heart pounding in her chest, and turned towards the door, her steps quickening with each passing moment. As she hurried back towards the Jackson mansion, she knew that the battle ahead would be the most challenging of her young life. But for her family, for the love that bound them together, she was willing to face even the most daunting of foes. Chapter 5: Redemption and Renewal. The air of the Jackson mansion was thick with tension as Maya approached the ornate double doors, her heart pounding in her chest. She had come to the wise healer, seeking guidance and a way to break the curse that had ensnared her family. And now she was filled with a steely resolve to confront the very source of their downfall, the mysterious monkey that had been the catalyst for her mother's desperate pact with the voodoo priest, Old Mace. As she pushed open the doors and stepped into the lavish foyer, the sound of the monkey's restless chittering reached her ears, a constant, unsettling reminder of the power it wielded over her family. Maya took a deep breath, steadying her nerves, and made her way towards the living room, where she knew her mother would be tending to the creature's endless demands. The sight that greeted her was a heartbreaking one. Angela, once the epitome of grace and elegance, now hunched over the wooden box that held the monkey, her fingers trembling as she offered it a fresh array of trinkets and delicacies. The once vibrant woman seemed to have been consumed by an all-consuming obsession, her gaze vacant and her expression haunted. Maya steeled herself, knowing that she could not afford to be swayed by her mother's distress. This was a battle that had to be fought, a curse that had to be broken, if her family was to have any hope of reclaiming their former lives. "Mama," she called out, her voice steady despite the turmoil that churned within her. Angela's head snapped up, her eyes widening as she caught sight of her daughter. "Maya," she breathed, a flicker of recognition crossing her features. "What are you doing here? You should be in your room." Maya took a step forward, her gaze unwavering. "I've been to see the wise healer, Mama," she said, her tone resolute. "She told me about the curse, about the monkey." Angela's expression darkened, and she rose to her feet, her hands clenching into fists. "The healer has no right to interfere in our affairs," she snapped, her voice laced with a hint of desperation. This monkey is the key to restoring our family's wealth and status. I won't let anyone take that away from us. Maya shook her head, her heart aching at the sight of her mother's deterioration. But Mama, don't you see? The monkey is destroying us, tearing our family apart. We have to break the curse, no matter the cost. Angela's eyes narrowed, and she took a step towards Maya, her movements jerky and erratic. No, you don't understand, she hissed, her words dripping with a hint of madness. The monkey is our salvation, our ticket back to the life we once had. I won't let you take that away from us. Maya felt a pang of fear, but she refused to back down. Mama, please, she pleaded, her voice laced with desperation. This isn't who you are. You're not the woman I remember, the one who put our family above everything else. Can't you see what this thing is doing to us? For a moment, a flicker of recognition flashed across Angela's features, and Maya dared to hope that her words had reached her. But then the older woman's expression hardened, and she turned her attention back to the wooden box, her fingers caressing the intricate carvings with a possessive fervor. I've made my choice, Maya, she said, her voice eerily calm. The monkey is the key to our salvation, and I won't let anyone, not even you, take that away from me. Maya felt her heart sink, and she knew that she had no choice but to confront the curse head-on. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward, her gaze unwavering as she met her mother's gaze. Then I'll have to stop you, Mama, she said, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and determination. I'll do whatever it takes to save our family, even if it means going against you. Angela's eyes widened, and for a moment, Maya saw a glimmer of the mother she had once known. The woman who had loved and protected her without question. But then the moment passed, and the older woman's expression hardened once more. So be it, she said, her voice low and dangerous. If you stand in my way, then you will suffer the consequences. With a swift motion, Angela reached into the wooden box and withdrew the small, wiry form of the monkey, its eyes gleaming with a malevolent intelligence. Maya felt a chill run down her spine as the creature turned its gaze towards her, its small hands clutching a gleaming ornament. Mama, please, Maya pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. Don't do this. Let me help you. Let me save you. But Angela's features were twisted with a cruel determination, and she thrust the monkey towards Maya, her voice laced with a dangerous edge. The monkey demands a sacrifice, Maya, she hissed, and you will be the one to pay the price. Maya felt her heart race as the monkey lunged towards her, its sharp claws outstretched and its teeth bared in a menacing snarl. She knew that she had to act quickly, that her family's very survival depended on her ability to confront the curse head-on. With a surge of adrenaline, Maya dodged the monkey's initial attack, her nimble movements fueled by a desperate need to protect her loved ones. She darted across the room, her eyes scanning for any sign of weakness or vulnerability in the creature's defenses. As the monkey turned and lunged at her again, Maya steeled herself, her gaze unwavering. In that moment, she knew what she had to do, the wise healer's words echoing in her mind as she prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice. With a deep breath, Maya stepped forward, her arms outstretched, and embraced the monkey, its sharp claws tearing at her flesh as she held it close. The creature let out a piercing shriek, its struggles growing weaker as Maya poured every ounce of her love and determination into the embrace. Angela watched in horror. Redemption and renewal. The air of the Jackson mansion was thick with tension as Maya approached the ornate double doors, her heart pounding in her chest. She had come to the wise healer, seeking guidance and a way to break the curse that had ensnared her family, and now she was filled with a steely resolve to confront the very source of their downfall, the mysterious monkey that had been the catalyst for her mother's desperate pact with the voodoo priest, Old Mass. As she pushed open the doors and stepped into the lavish foyer, the sound of the monkey's restless chittering reached her ears, a constant, unsettling reminder of the power it wielded over her family. Maya took a deep breath, steadying her nerves, and made her way towards the living room, where she knew her mother would be tending to the creature's endless demands. The sight that greeted her was a heartbreaking one. Angela, once the epitome of grace and elegance, now hunched over the wooden box that held the monkey, her fingers trembling as she offered it a fresh array of trinkets and delicacies. The once vibrant woman seemed to have been consumed by an all-consuming obsession, her gaze vacant and her expression haunted. Maya steeled herself, knowing that she could not afford to be swayed by her mother's distress. This was a battle that had to be fought, a curse that had to be broken, if her family was to have any hope of reclaiming their former lives. "Mama," she called out, her voice steady despite the turmoil that churned within her. Angela's head snapped up, her eyes widening as she caught sight of her daughter. "Maya," she breathed, a flicker of recognition crossing her features. "What are you doing here? You should be in your room." Maya took a step forward, her gaze unwavering. "I've been to see the wise healer, Mama," she said, her tone resolute. "She told me about the curse, about the monkey." Angela's expression darkened, and she rose to her feet, her hands clenching into fists. "The healer has no right to interfere in our affairs," she snapped, her voice laced with a hint of desperation. "This monkey is the key to restoring our family's wealth and status. I won't let anyone take that away from us." Maya shook her head, her heart aching at the sight of her mother's deterioration. "But Mama, don't you see? The monkey is destroying us, tearing our family apart. We have to break the curse, no matter the cost." Angela's eyes narrowed, and she took a step towards Maya, her movements jerky and erratic. "No, you don't understand," she hissed, her words dripping with a hint of madness. "The monkey is our salvation, our ticket back to the life we once had. I won't let you take that away from us." Maya felt a pang of fear, but she refused to back down. "Mama, please," she pleaded, her voice laced with desperation. "This isn't who you are. You're not the woman I remember, the one who put our family above everything else. Can't you see what this thing is doing to us?" For a moment, a flicker of recognition flashed across Angela's features, and Maya dared to hope that her words had reached her. But then the older woman's expression hardened, and she turned her attention back to the wooden box, her fingers caressing the intricate carvings with a possessive fervor. "I've made my choice, Maya," she said, her voice eerily calm. "The monkey is the key to our salvation, and I won't let anyone, not even you, take that away from me." Maya felt her heart sink, and she knew that she had no choice but to confront the curse head-on. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward, her gaze unwavering as she met her mother's gaze. "Then I'll have to stop you, Mama," she said, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and determination. "I'll do whatever it takes to save our family, even if it means going against you." Angela's eyes widened, and for a moment Maya saw a glimmer of the mother she had once known, the woman who had loved and protected her without question. But then the moment passed, and the older woman's expression hardened once more. "So be it," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "If you stand in my way, then you will suffer the consequences." With a swift motion, Angela reached into the wooden box and withdrew the small, wiry form of the monkey, its eyes gleaming with a malevolent intelligence. Maya felt a chill run down her spine as the creature turned its gaze towards her, its small hands clutching a gleaming ornament. "Mama, please," Maya pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't do this. Let me help you. Let me save you." But Angela's features were twisted with a cruel determination, and she thrust the monkey towards Maya, her voice laced with a dangerous edge. "The monkey demands a sacrifice, Maya," she hissed, "and you will be the one to pay the price." Maya felt her heart race as the monkey lunged towards her, its sharp claws outstretched and its teeth bared in a menacing snarl. She knew that she had to act quickly, that her family's very survival depended on her ability to confront the curse head-on. With a surge of adrenaline, Maya dodged the monkey's initial attack, her nimble movements fueled by a desperate need to protect her loved ones. She darted across the room, her eyes scanning for any sign of weakness or vulnerability in the creature's defenses. As the monkey turned and lunged at her again, Maya steeled herself, her gaze unwavering. In that moment, she knew what she had to do, the wise healer's words echoing in her mind as she prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice. With a deep breath, Maya stepped forward, her arms outstretched, and embraced the monkey, its sharp claws tearing at her flesh as she held it close. The creature let out a piercing shriek, its struggles growing weaker as Maya poured every ounce of her love and determination into the embrace. Angela watched in horror, her mouth agape, as the monkey's movements slowed, its eyes glazing over. Maya felt a surge of power coursing through her, a connection to the very spirits that had fueled the curse. With a final, convulsive shudder, the monkey went limp in her arms, its life force ebbing away. As the creature's lifeless body slipped to the floor, Maya felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her, her limbs trembling. But in that moment, she knew that she had succeeded. The curse had been broken, and her family was finally free. Angela staggered forward, her eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and dawning realization. "Maya, what have you done?" she whispered, her voice laced with anguish. Maya mustered a weary smile, her hand reaching out to grasp her mother's. "I did what I had to do, Mama," she said, her voice soft and reassuring. "I broke the curse, and now our family can heal." Angela's expression crumpled, and she sank to her knees, the tears streaming down her cheeks. "Oh, Maya," she sobbed, her shoulders shaking with the weight of her grief and remorse. "I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen." Maya knelt beside her mother, her own tears mingling with Angela's as they embraced. The once grand mansion felt strangely quiet, the absence of the monkey's constant chittering, a poignant reminder of the sacrifice that had been made. Jaden and Liam soon joined them, drawn by the commotion, and the family huddled together, their bonds forged anew in the crucible of their struggle. The weight of their ordeal hung heavy in the air, but there was also a glimmer of hope, a newfound appreciation for the strength of their unity. As the sun began to set, casting the room in a warm, golden glow, Angela turned to her children, her eyes shining with a newfound clarity. "I'm so proud of you, Maya," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You've saved us all, and I promise I will never again let greed and selfishness come between us." Maya nodded, her own heart swelling with a sense of relief and pride. "I know, Mama," she said, squeezing her mother's hand. "We're a family, and that's what matters most." In the days that followed, the Jackson household slowly began to heal, the scars of their ordeal slowly fading. The lavish trappings of their former wealth were gradually abandoned, replaced by a newfound sense of simplicity and gratitude. The story of the family's harrowing journey soon spread through the village, becoming a cautionary tale of the perils of greed and the power of sacrifice and love. Angela, humbled by her experience, became a respected member of the community, her wisdom and compassion a beacon for those who had once envied her. As the years passed, the Jackson family grew stronger, their bonds forged in the crucible of their struggle. And whenever Maya looked out over the lush, verdant landscape of their village, she was reminded of the hard-won lessons they had learned. That true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the strength of one's family and the resilience of the human spirit.